Welcome, Smart Traffic Live. This is Measuring Your Marketing, the one Google Analytics report every e-commerce store owner needs to know. My name is Chris Mercer. I actually do go by Mercer, and I am the co-founder of measurementmarketing.io. Now, our main job here is really to help marketers such as yourself figure out how to get more juice from the squeeze when it comes to these tools. Things like analytics, things like Google Tag Manager. There's a lot of amazing things that you can do with these free tools that are available to you as a marketer. But again, they can be a little frustrating, a little overwhelming. And our job is really just to help teach these to you so that they're a little bit more accessible. You can get a little bit more from them. Now, we do that in part using the measurement marketing framework. That's really 5 key pieces. And the reason we cover that here is because it helps put today's training in context. So the 5 key pillars of the measurement marketing framework are planning, which is really just trying to figure out what questions are important to answer, what information you're going to need to actually get those answers, and what actions that you're actually going to take based upon those answers. And we'll be talking about that a little bit in this session. Then we'll talk about the build, where you're actually making sure the right information is being stored in the right way, in particular in Google Analytics, so that you can easily see the reports and start reading the reports and getting a little bit more information from them. You actually start getting answers from the reports. Then once you know how your marketing is actually working, you can begin to forecast how your future. And of course, once you have your forecast, you can actually send actual traffic against your forecast. And you're going to be measuring all of this so that you know what's working and what's not. That tells you where you should optimize in your own customer journey. Now it's your turn. And I realize that you and I can't actually chat live at this present time, but I want you to think through kind of where you are in your own journey, specifically around Google Analytics, since that's what we're going to be talking about now. So are you just sort of starting out where maybe you've used this tool a couple of times and you've kind of just been like, oh, okay, I've tried this. It seems a little squirrely. I'm just going to come back to this a little bit later on, right? If that's your case, maybe you're like a 1, 2, or 3 out of a scale of 1 to 10, something like that. Maybe you're in the middle where you've used it, you're getting some information from it, but you're just not sure if you're using it in the right way, and you want to get a little bit more tips in terms of how to actually get a little bit more from it, right? Get a little bit more usage from it. Or maybe you're like an 8, 9, or 10, where you're way at the other end of the scale. You're kind of an expert in this tool, and you're here just because you're trying to get some validation, like, okay, yes, I'm using it the right way, or maybe just trying to pick up a new idea or hear something in a different way. Well, either way, whatever group you're in, you're just starting out, maybe you've got some experience or you're an expert, your goal from this training is really to get one thing, one new idea, one new concept, one new skill that you can practice. That's what the mission is. And this is, of course, why they are available to you as recordings, so you can come back and rewatch them over and over and over again to get more one things. Because as your skills grow in these tools, you can rewatch these particular trainings and get even more from them. Now, here's some of the things you might want to look at. If you're just starting out, we're going to start with a tour first off, just to make sure that everybody, no matter your experience with Google Analytics, everybody's on the same page and we all know kind of the lay of the land of Google Analytics. So we're going to start with a quick tour to get everybody caught up. Then we're going to talk about that super report and dive into that one report that you're going to really start using to manage your own e-commerce growth. Then we'll talk about learning how to read Google Analytics, because it really is a story. And maybe you've thought that before, where Google Analytics, you kind of have this gut reaction like, man, if I just knew how to read this report, it would enlighten me and let me take an action that I wouldn't otherwise know what to do, right? You wouldn't know what to do, but this report has these details. If only I knew what they meant. We're going to talk about how to actually decode and read this. And then we're going to talk about connecting the dots. And that's really what start to finish is all about. So you're going to learn how to connect the traffic coming in to the results that you're actually getting from that traffic. And again, we're going to use that super report to do all of that. All right, let's get started, shall we? We're going to start with a tour, and we're going to move into the 5 questions that Google Analytics is really built to answer in that tour. And what I'm going to do is we're just going to bring up Google Analytics, because that's what I love doing here. So you're going to start when you first come into Google Analytics. You're going to see this home screen, and you really won't spend a ton of time here. It's just kind of an overview of what's going on in your site. And most of the time, this is not the best place to be, right? You're not really coming in here to kind of get a lay of the land. You're coming in to get a specific question to something. And we're going to talk about that again in just a moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the report that you will most likely see. Now, this is not this specific report, but this specific style of report. So you're going to see this page more than often, when you're in Google Analytics. So it'll start with, just an overview this is the top part here, the segmentation that goes on. This is the main area where you're getting all of your information, right? So you've got segmentation that you can do. So maybe you want to see just mobile devices or desktop devices. You can do that here. You can change the dates, very important thing. You want to make sure you can change the dates. Then you've got your trends, general trend lines that are here. And then of course you have all of this stuff. This is really where most of us have spent our time. We come in, we see the numbers. This might be where you come in and go like, okay, this is where I'm checking out because I have no idea and there's way too much stuff and I have no idea what anything means. Again, we'll talk about that today. And then of course, on the left-hand side, you have your navigation. This is where all of the main reports are. So the way that analytics is really organized is fairly simple because almost all of the reports you're actually going to use are the same organization. You've got your stuff up top, you've got your trend lines in the middle, you've got the main information down here that you're looking for, and you've got what they call metrics, which is the numbers, and then you've got dimensions, which is the things you sort by, and then you've got your reports, right? That's really it. So that's kind of how the whole thing is set up in Google Analytics. So again, just to review, you got your main overview screen. You have where the segmentation is and your date ranges. You can adjust that. So that helps you customize what you're about to see below. And you've got two main big areas below. You've got the trend lines. So you can kind of see the trends. And sometimes that's important to take a look at. And then you've got the actual information, what they call the dimensions and the metrics, right? So you've got the information there. And then you've got, of course, these navigation on the left-hand side, the 5 main reports. Now, this is important because the biggest mistake that people make with Google Analytics, and I know I was guilty of this when I first started out, you might be guilty of this now, is you go into analytics unarmed, right? We never go into GA unarmed. So what does that mean? You arm yourself with something called KIA, and it stands for 3 things. You've already heard them: question, information, and action. So before you go into Google Analytics, you actually think through, okay, what question am I trying to answer? And you write that question down. Then you go, okay, what information will I need in order to get answers to that question? And you sort of write that stuff down. Here's what I'm looking for. And then you think, okay, what actions will I actually take? And this, by the way, is the most important thing. What action will I actually take based upon those answers? Right? So you want to tie everything to an action. And you think through this whole process before you go into Google Analytics. Super important. That's arming yourself with this KIA method. So question, information, and action. And we will talk about this a little bit later on, but I'll give you an example of this. Might be, okay, I'm trying to figure out if Facebook is a good traffic source for me. So maybe the question is very simple, like, does Facebook produce sales? Then you go, okay, that's my question. What information will I need? Well, I'm going to need to know my Facebook traffic, and I'm going to need to know the amount of sales that I'm getting. And then what are the actions? Well, if my Facebook traffic is less than $5,000 in sales, because maybe I spent 10 grand in advertising, then I know it is not working. If I get at least a $10,000 in sales and I'm breaking even, then okay, I'm going to go ahead and tweak things and start, expanding out my Facebook spend. So you might have something like that. Again, very simple example, but you think through all of this, you kind of role play this before you go into analytics, then you go into Google Analytics. Now, the questions that you're going to be asking yourself will really fit into 5 key categories. And fortunately, Google Analytics already has these categories organized for you. And that's what you see here on the left-hand side. Like, this is exactly what's sitting in your own Google Analytics right now. There's 5 main areas. So let's go ahead and take a look at each of those. And I'm going to bring those back up with our own Google Analytics here. So we've got the real-time reports. Now, real-time reports are all about, this is kind of the most fun report, I think, because it's like you see all the people, and this is, in this case, the Google Merchandise Store demo account. So you can see all the different pages people are on and all the different places and countries that they're coming from. And it's kind of fun to look at because this is actually happening right now as this recording is going on. And so this is great, but not very useful. It's not, I can't really take any action. All I can really answer, the main question this is designed to answer is this thing working? That's it. So I can see, okay, what pages are they actually on in the little content section? I can see what events might be being triggered if I have different events coming through. I can see what goals might be being achieved if I have goals that are set up. And I can see all of these things just to test them and see if things are working. That's really what the real-time reports are all about. Now, the next type of question you might ask yourself is who? Like, who are my users, right? Tell me about these people. So that's what the audience reports will do. So in the audience reports, you have things like demographics, and you can see things like age and breakdown by gender. You also have things like interest reports. So you can figure out kind of who these different users are in terms of their interests. So what are they into? What kind of other things do they like? What kind of other products or services might they also be in the market for? This can help you with targeting of your ads. So analytics will cough up all this information for you. It wants you to know this so it can educate you as to who your users are so that you can better target the right user for your particular e-commerce store. Now, the next question you might ask will be around where are my users coming from, right? How are they finding me? That's acquisition reports. Now, we will come back to this because our super report is actually in here, but you can also, besides the fact of all the different traffic sources that are sending traffic to you, you can also see Google Ads specific traffic. You can also see search traffic that is specifically Google search in this case that's coming through from the Google search engine, social traffic, and of course monitoring any campaigns that you have coming through here. So that's what the acquisition reports. It's all the different traffic sources. And again, we're going to skip through this one real quick because we will spend a lot of time back here. I think this is where the super report actually is, and it's the most useful report in Google Analytics. So I'll show you that. Then the other question, so far, again, we've got, is this on? That's sort of the real time. Is this thing working? That sort of thing. Then you've got who my users are, right? That's the audience question. Then where are my users coming from? That's acquisition. Then it's behavior. Behavior is all about what actions are my users taking on my site, right? That's a behavior question. So here you see all sorts of reports like the site content report, all pages. You looked at that earlier when we were talking about the tour. The site content report, it shows you under the all pages, it shows you every single page that your users are seeing. It talks about how many uniques, and it gives you a little bit of engagement metrics and a little bit of results metric. You also have things like landing page reports. This tells you the first page that somebody saw in their visit. And you have exit page reports, which are the last page that somebody saw in their visit. And so you can go through and really get an understanding of, again, what specific actions people are taking on your site. Now, of course, we don't have time today to go into this huge deep dive breakdown of everything here. But the report, if you're asking yourself a question around what action somebody's taking, chances are you're going to find it in one of these behavior reports. Now, finally, the fourth question is all about what results am I getting? This is where you're going to find your goals. So you'll see the different goals that are being triggered by Google Analytics that you've got set up, and you can measure those and even the traffic sources that are causing those goals to happen. You can also, of course, see e-commerce. So if you have your e-commerce set up, like a Shopify store, for example, you sort of check a little box and then all that information comes through, and you can see things like what products you're selling. And you can also, of course, drill down into the specifics of the different products that you have. So that's e-commerce. And it's all about the results of your users' actions. Okay, so that's what the conversions reports are all about. So let's review this really quickly. So is this thing working? So if you're asking yourself this question, is this thing working? That is real time. So that's your real-time reports. And again, you can see things like the traffic sources that are working, the content, the events, conversions that are firing, everything that's happening kind of this moment. So it's not super useful to actually take any marketing action on, but it does do a great job when it comes to testing stuff. If you're trying to figure out if something's working or if set up correctly, that's a real-time noise. Then if you're asking a question that's really some sort of variation of who the users are, so what age are they? What gender might they be? What topics are they into? Are people who are into travel more likely to be a buyer than somebody who's into maybe being an audiophile? Questions like that can be answered in the audience reports. That's all about who the users are. Remember, that's things like demographics and interest. It's also things like where they live. Technically, it's what devices they're using. You can find all sorts of cool stuff about your users in the audience reports. Then the question, again, kind of a category style question, where are my users coming from? So is search a good thing for me? Is social media working for me? Are people coming from AdWords actually turning into buyers? Or are they turning into leads, right? All of that sort of stuff, all those types of questions are all around where my users are coming from. So that is in the acquisition reports. So under acquisition, you can see here the all traffic, you've got Google Ads, Search Consoles, social campaigns, lots of fun reports that are through here, all about where the users are coming from. And then finally, or I shouldn't say finally, but second to last, we've got what actions are my users taking? So what actions are my users taking really comes down to the behavior reports. That's all the different pages they're seeing. If you've got your site set up to track this or to measure this, you can track button clicks, you can track video plays or scroll. There's lots of cool things that you can do with Google Analytics. And that's where all of these actions are stored. They're stored in these reports, including questions like what pages are they seeing first? What pages are they seeing last? So that's all in the behavior reports. Then finally comes the results. And that's really, again, that main category of question. What products am I selling? What goals are being achieved? How many leads did I get yesterday? All of those sort of questions are results-oriented questions. So if you're asking something in the category of what are the results of my users' actions, that will be found in the conversions reports. So you've got conversions and, again, goals, e-commerce results, etc. Everything back there in the conversion section. So that's really the 5 key questions that Google Analytics is designed to answer. But that's not what people do. Typically, they do this, right? And you go and you say, oh, I'm going to do Google Analytics reports for e-commerce sites. Well, if you'll notice here, you've got 55 million possible results that have come through with that search. So let's say that we just want to transact, okay, I want the best Google Analytics. Well, 43 million. We narrowed it down a little bit. Friends, don't let friends Google it, because here's what you're going to find. You're going to find all of these blog posts that say things like this: 12 reports to do this, 7 reports for this, 8 reports for that. One blog post will say, use this report. The other blog post will say, never, ever do this report. It's not useful at all. And you just get confused by all of this. So instead of going through this mess where you have all these different reports that are kind of swirling around in your head, trying to figure out what you're supposed to do, I think you focus on one. There is one super report that rules them all, right? There's one super report that rules them all. This is something called the source medium report. And we're going to go into great detail on the rest of this training about this report, because if you master this report, you will get 80 to 90% of what you need from Google Analytics just from this one single place. All right, so we're going to take a look and show you exactly where this report is so that you can actually come through and, of course, see it. So in Google Analytics, where we're going to go to acquisition, and we're going to go to all traffic, and then we're going to go to source medium right here. So acquisition, then all traffic, and then source medium. So when we do that, we pull up, again, sort of a standard report. It looks like all the other reports. The difference is, and this is where we're going to spend our time from here on out, is down here in this section. So the way this is organized is super important and incredibly useful. So in one report, you see the identity of your traffic sources. That's what they call the source medium. And we'll get into what these mean specifically a little bit later on. But the identity of the traffic source. In this section, where it says acquisition, the main header here, in this section is all about the quantity. So how much of that traffic from that source are you getting? So how much? Then you've got behavior. These are just engagement. This is almost like a quality of traffic. So you can see how engaged they are and what the quality of that traffic is. And then you have results of that traffic. And you can do the results by e-commerce, assuming you have that set up, but you can also do it by different goals that you might have. So any goal that you have set up, you can also just change this and say, well, how many purchases were completed? And you can flip to that goal and you can see the results by that particular goal. So in one report, and this is what makes this the super report, you see where your traffic's coming from. That's the identity of your traffic. You see how much of that traffic you're getting from each individual traffic source. You see how quality or how much engagement you're getting from that traffic as it is achieving results, the results that that traffic is actually causing. So this is an incredible report. This is why you want to spend so much time back here really understanding what this report does. And to show this even clearer, so this is the source medium report, and really spend your time in this section. I know it's a lot of numbers. I know it initially looks confusing because it's just, laid out in this table-like format, but it's just 4 different sections. First is the identity of the traffic. Second is the quantity, that is how much of that traffic am I getting. Then it's the actions that are happening, right? The engagement, the quality of the traffic. This is just what that is. And then it's the, at the end of the day, the results, right? What results are actually happening from those specific traffic sources. So identity, quantity, action, and results. Now we're going to come back to that a little bit later, but before we go too deep into this, I want to talk about how to actually read a report. And again, maybe you've been that person. I know I was, where I was like, man, I just know if I could unlock and understood how to use this tool being Google Analytics, if I could figure that out and figure out how to read these stupid reports, they would tell me something that I can actually take to improve my results, right? And if you've ever wondered that and you've never been able to kind of crack that nut, this is what we're going to talk about, reading reports. And remember this phrase, the truth is in the trend. We're going to come back to that. But the idea of reading reports, it's really this phrase of the truth is in the trend, the power is in the pattern. And remember this, the truth is in the trend, the power is in the pattern. Let me show you exactly what we mean by that. And we're going to do that with a little game that you and I are about to jump into. So if we go back to the source medium report, right, we have the identity, we have the quantity, we have the actions, and we have the results. I am just going to focus on the results because we're going to practice reading this section of it together. Okay, so you and I are going to practice reading this really quick. So we're going to go into actions. I'm just going to kind of cut this together so it's easier for you to see on the screen. So it's the same report, just these two sections put together, so it's easiest for us to read. So in this section of bounce rate, now bounce rate is really the Google Analytics way of saying this is how many people started a page. So they came to your site and they saw a page and then they left. They didn't do anything else. They didn't go to another page. They didn't do anything else. There was no other interaction that was measured. That's what a bounce is. So if somebody came to your site page loaded and they leave, that's a bounce. If they come to your site and they click add to cart or they click onto a product detail page, that's not a bounce because they took additional action. So again, bounce means they loaded a page and they left, and something that's not a bounce means, okay, they actually interacted with your site and went through a few different steps. So what this bounce rate is showing us here is how many people came to my site. In this case, we're using my example at measurementmarketing.io. This is our data. So how many people came to our site and then left? So by percentage, that's how this is viewed. So on average, site-wide, I'm about 45%. You can see that right here. So it's a little 45, almost 46% site-wide. Then you see all these differences here. This little Infusionsoft email, this direct none traffic source, this Google Organic, Infusionsoft Partner, which is affiliate traffic. I got referrals coming in from a site called Seriously Simple Marketing. So we have all of this different traffic sources coming through, and the bounce rates are wildly different. So here's my question. What is a good bounce rate, right? So first question, what's a good bounce rate? Well, my overall is 45. So does it mean 48 is good? Does it mean 17 is good? Really, it's kind of a trick question because the number itself doesn't actually matter. And I know that sounds weird, but in Google Analytics, really the numbers don't matter. The truth is in the trend, the power is in the pattern. So here's what I mean by that. So if I look at these bounce rates and I come in for the Infusionsoft, I see it's roughly 48. I see down here 17. Well, in bounce rate terms, the lower the bounce rate, the better, because that means that less people are leaving. So here, half my traffic coming in from email leaves right away after they see the one page. And down here, I've got 17% of the Seriously Simple Marketing traffic that leaves, or 17% leaves, right? So in this case, again, I don't care really that it's 48 or 17. What I care about is it's basically roughly 2.5 times higher bounce rate here. So it's 2.5 times. So if I figure 18 and roughly 2.5 times or roughly 50 percentage bounce rate. So it's roughly 2.5 times higher on Infusionsoft than it is down here. Right? This is roughly 2 times give or take. This is roughly 2 times give or take. So this here, much higher bounce rate. So a much higher bounce rate compared to this. So I'm looking at 3 or 4 times as high bounce rate. So that's what I'm looking at. And I'm just kind of comparing these different bounce rates to each other. So don't get caught up in the numbers, just get caught up in kind of the pattern that these numbers are telling you. So in this case, again, another way to read this might be, okay, Infusionsoft, about average for my site. Again, don't care that it's the numbers that match, or I just care about the roughly average, what the trend is. This is about average. This is probably a little bit better than average. This is a lot worse, right? A lot worse. And then this is a lot better. Like, that's it. You don't need to get caught up in the numbers. Just think about the trend that these numbers are telling you, right? This is the story that they're trying to tell you, because the numbers don't matter, but the trend definitely does. Now, we're going to continue this little journey here as we go through, and we're going to think about pages per session. Same thing. Truth is in the trend, power is in the pattern. If we just look at pages per session, so what's the story here? Well, if I come through and I go, okay, well, site-wide, I'm roughly at a 2. This would be better or worse. Well, if I'm looking for engagement, it would be worse because I'm not having as many people see as many pages from this traffic source of email, right? Here, I'm about average. Here, I'm a little bit bigger than average, a little bit better from organic. Here, it's a little bit worse. And here, it's a lot better. Like, you can see all this traffic coming in from Seriously Simple Marketing doesn't bounce, right? It's a much lower bounce rate, and it's like 2.5 times almost of improvement over my averages. So it's really, really much more engaged traffic. So then if we continue that and we say, okay, well, let's look at average session, see that story. And again, average session is basically just how much time they're spending on a visit on your page, roughly. And again, don't get caught up in the numbers, because I wouldn't think that they're super accurate, but they are very useful because they give you an idea of trend, and that's all you're looking for. Remember, truth is in the trend, power is in the pattern. So here, if I said, okay, what's compared to what my overall site is, how am I doing? I can say, well, this particular traffic source, Infusionsoft email traffic that I'm getting, a little bit less than average engagement. Here, more. So my direct none traffic, people coming directly to my site, a little bit more. It's about 5 minutes versus the 3. So that's, 1.5 times, coming through. So better. This is about average. This is about average. This is a lot less, which is interesting because they don't bounce, right? So you see this high engagement level. You see a lot of pages that they're seeing, but they're seeing them really fast. So 1.5 versus my average of 3 here. So it's like half, 50% in terms of duration of sessions. So they're spending half the time of what my average users are. My direct none people spend about 5 minutes, right? So they're really spending time going through the site, learning about stuff. They're spending time looking at stuff. And here, but they're doing less pages, but here they're doing a lot more pages, kind of skipping through everything, not really spending time. And that is why you do this, to see that story. So you look at these individually, so you understand them individually compared to each other, but then you do it kind of horizontally like this, and it tells you a story. So if I just compared Infusionsoft email traffic to the Seriously Simple Marketing traffic, I can see here, Infusionsoft, okay, bounce rate's about average, right? Definitely higher than Seriously Simple Marketing. They do not see as many pages, and they spend, not as much time on the site as some of my other users might, but consider the source of email. Does this make sense that email traffic would do that? Probably, because email traffic, I'm sending the traffic from Infusionsoft. They're coming to a page on my site to achieve a specific purpose, whether that's to log in or to see a video content that we're giving out as a training, or maybe to take a look at an offer that we have or something along that, to read a blog post maybe. But they're coming to achieve a certain result. That certain result typically is not to browse around the site and learn about the company, because they already know about us, because they're already on our list. So it makes sense that some of them are going to bounce and some of them won't, because some of the pages, it's just designed to have one page in their session, but they're not going to go through a lot of stuff, right? That's fine. I think Infusionsoft email these are okay numbers from what I can tell. This one though, Seriously Simple Marketing, totally different story. And we alluded to this earlier. You see this incredibly low bounce rate. So like, okay, no one's really bouncing. This is great compared to what the average is. It's incredibly engaged. Super engaged when it comes to pages per session, but man, look at that. Time on page is about the same as an email. So they're not spending a lot of time, and they're just skating right on through the site. So they're not sticking. Nothing's really catching their attention, and they're just slipping right through. So what do I do as somebody who wants to improve the results? I would look at this and say, well, let's put in a page that's for the Seriously Simple Marketing traffic, and maybe slow them down. See if we can't slow them down a little bit to educate them so they spend a little bit more time on the site. So these are something that you can get just from this one little section of this source medium report. Now let's talk about start to finish, and that is really kind of connecting the dots. Again, we're still in the source medium report. We're staying here the entire time. In the source medium report, you have the start, which is the identity of your traffic, right? We can talk about that identity section here, but you can tag your traffic. Now, analytics is going to start by helping you the best way that it can. So Google's going to help you the best way that it can. It does that by classifying the traffic. So first it'll say, well, there's organic traffic, and you'll see things like Google organic or Bing organic or Ask organic. That is literally search traffic. It's coming from a search engine. That's what that means. Then you have this referral traffic, which you saw, just a minute or so ago with Seriously Simple Marketing. So that is, it came from a third-party site, not a search engine. It came from someplace else, not a search engine. That is Seriously Simple Marketing. In this case, it's called referral traffic. It's the type of traffic is called referral traffic. And then you've got this none traffic. This is the direct none stuff. This means, this is technically analytics telling you they have no idea. They just showed up. They just showed up. That's what this is. Sometimes that is legitimate. Like in our case at measurementmarketing.io, we have our company name is our website. So people know us by the brand of measurementmarketing.io. And so they will type in measurementmarketing.io. We also have a membership component. So when members are coming in, they're typing in, coming directly to our site. So we have a lot of direct none traffic. But that could be email traffic if you're not tagging it. And that's what you see here. If you see that you can actually tell a better story. If you go back to ours, you see this Infusionsoft email, Infusionsoft partner. Well, we are causing that to happen. We are tagging our traffic as it's coming in to Google Analytics so that Analytics sees it and says, oh, this actually came from an Infusionsoft email, or this actually came from an Infusionsoft partner, meaning an affiliate of one of ours. So we can actually track affiliate traffic versus email traffic versus Google Organic or traffic coming in from other sites like Seriously Simple Marketing. Now, how we're doing this is something called UTMs, and I want to introduce you to this topic. Again, some of this might be new to you, in which case just now you know what to Google for, and I'm going to give you some tools that you can can use as well in this training. So completely free tools that you can take advantage of to help you out with this. But if you are using UTMs, I want you to still pay attention to this, because UTMs, there's a certain trick to them to make them work even better. Now, if you are brand new to this concept, this is kind of what a UTM link looks like. And it's kind of ugly. And you will, if you click on your emails now and you look in your URLs of your browser, you'll see stuff like this. It's like these little parameters, and it's kind of this weird little thing. So I want to break this down so you can kind of understand what this means. And more importantly, when you click on your emails, you're going to know how to read this stuff now, so you can see it. And you can see how people are actually tagging you coming into their site. So first is this little UTM source, in this case equals Facebook as an example. So the source is really that. It is the source of the traffic. And the way to think about this is the brand name of the traffic source. So it could be something like Facebook or YouTube or Google or Infusionsoft. As a rule, we keep them all lowercase, so that keeps things easier in Google Analytics. And it's easy to do. You just type in UTM_source equals, and then you put in whatever your source. So in this example, it's Facebook. You can see that in the highlighted section at the top of your screen there. Now, the next little section here is this UTM_medium. Okay, it's called the medium. That is the type of traffic from the brand. That is the source of traffic. Okay, so it's the type of traffic. So in this case, it could be CPC, which we use for paid traffic. You can call it share. That might be something where you're sharing stuff on Facebook, but you're not boosting a post. It might be shared. Podcast, speaking, this kind of traffic that I'm doing right now. So if you come to my site from to measuremarketing.io from the link that we'll share here in this particular training, it will be tagged as speaking traffic. So I know that the speaking traffic that we did here at Smart Traffic Live, kind of where you came from. So it helps us to understand where the users are coming from in that case. So you can tag all sorts of stuff, not just paid traffic or share traffic, right? So then you've got the way to do this, again, UTM_medium, and you type in whatever the type of traffic is. Then you've got UTM_campaign. In this case, we did win as an example. So campaign is just the point of it. It's the reason for the traffic. Typically, it's your product or service. And this is where a lot of people mess things up when it comes to tagging traffic, is they create these way too many campaigns. And it's really hard to figure out what's going on in Google Analytics when you fracture your campaigns. So instead of having like Father's Day sale, Mother's Day sale, winter 2018, you do products or services. So in our case, in this example, it's called Win because we have something called Win Monthly Pass. We have Win courses. So anything that we're doing to generate traffic for those products, we put them under the campaign of Win, so that we can see how all the different sources of traffic are working together to create the results of ultimately selling the Win products. Like, that's why we do that. So that's what the campaign is for. And again, Win Academy, Spring Gala might be the thing that you're doing. End of year drive, if you have that sort of consistent thing every single year, you might be doing that. UTM_campaign, and then you equals, and then put the value in. And that's what automatically come through in Google Analytics. Then you see this little term section. So there's, again, term you can tag as well. Term is really where we use the headlines, or if it's an email that you're tagging, put the subject of your email in there. So it might be like know your numbers, or tickets are running out, like whatever sort of, subject line or headlines you're putting in. And again, pretty simple, UTM_term equals, and then you put in whatever it is that you're trying to tag in. And then you've got content. It's the fifth thing that you can tag, the fifth and final thing, actually. So that is really the differentiators. It's like the details that make this particular click unique from all the other ones. So in this example, where it says like audience retargeting blog, that could be a signal for us. That would be recorded in Google Analytics, and I could look that up and I could say, oh, well, I know that was an audience where we were retargeting people who saw our blog. And this particular ad that they clicked on was the one that had the image of a laptop on it. So you can put very specific details that I can pull out into my Google Analytics reports now. So if I wanted to say, well, hey, of all the ads that I run with laptops on them, can you show me those results? Analytics can now do this because I've tagged that information into it. Or if I wanted to know, hey, how is my retargeting traffic doing versus my cold traffic that I'm not retargeting, and I'm just trying to create some awareness, I can actually do that too, because I can tell Analytics, hey, go look in the content, pull up anything that has the word retargeting and make that a thing. So that's why you do sort of these things like this. And again, UTM_content is where those details would go. Now, with UTMs, structure is everything. And I know I'm giving you a lot. I can feel it. But remember, the whole point of this is that you can get these recordings so you can actually come through and watch this again and practice it. But the structure is super important in UTM. So I want to go over these again, only this time in a slightly different way, to show you like how these things fit together. So the campaign at the top here, again, is kind of the point of the traffic. So one of our other programs is called the Measurement Marketing Academy. It's perfect for like agencies and teams and companies that want to learn how to get a measurement marketing kind of culture and mindset. So that's what the Academy is for. So if I'm sending traffic for the point of the Academy to actually create an Academy sale, I would call it Academy as my campaign. Now, the source of traffic, in this case, as an example, would be the brand name of the traffic source. So it'd be Infusionsoft. Maybe it's an email that I'm sending, which would be a type of email. Maybe the subject line of the email was, have you seen this? And so I would put that as the term. And then maybe I wanted to know this particular link. Are they clicking on the PS link? Or are they clicking in the first link in my email? Like maybe I want to know that. So I would put something like PS link in the content. And that would tell me the unique click. Again, just an example of some things that you can do when it comes to tracking your UTMs. But when you look at it like this, again, a slightly different way, I've got my product or service as the main point. You can have brands of traffic that are feeding into that product or service, different types of traffic from those brands, the headlines or the subject lines, and the specific details from those. Okay, now this looks kind of empty, but if you switch it over to this, hopefully it starts really kind of penciling together this picture for you. Because here I've got this Measurement Marketing Academy. Maybe I've got a campaign for the Academy. I've got two traffic sources I'm using, Facebook and Infusionsoft. So I'm going to tag the source as Infusionsoft and the sources as Facebook for maybe, again, three different specific traffic sources here, but two main traffic sources, I should say, from a brand's perspective. But I've got three different types of traffic, which is why there's 3 blocks. Some of it might be an email traffic from Infusionsoft, share traffic, so traffic I'm not really boosting or paying for on Facebook, and then CPC, this paid traffic that's coming from Facebook. And then here I can tag even further from this traffic source. I know the subject line of the email was, have you seen this? It was a PS link. The share traffic was sign up today and the image of a laptop. The CPC might be the headline of join the Measurement Marketing Academy and an image of a business person in it. And I can tag all of these details and they're all rolling up into the Academy campaign so I can read this in my reports and use it like in the source medium report. That's how I get things like Infusionsoft email or Infusionsoft partner. And I can tell the difference between those traffic sources because I'm using UTMs. Super, super important. Now, this is a free tool that you can use. It's called the UTM Builder, the Traffic Tracker. It's part of our traffic tracking toolkit, and I will show you how to get that in just a few minutes here. So stand by for that. But this tool will help you to structure all of these. There's different things you just fill in for your different brands of traffic that you're using, the different types of traffic that you use as a company, and the different campaigns or products and services that you want to be able to send traffic to. And then this will actually help you build out the UTMs so that you can actually start to use and practice those. But let's talk about the finish side of things. So the UTMs are really to tag the start of all of this. Then you've got to think about the finish. Like, what are the results I'm actually getting from all of these different traffic sources once I've tagged them into Google Analytics? That's where ACE comes in. So ACE stands for awareness, completion, and engagement. Okay, so it's aware, complete, and engage. That's ACE model. So how does this really fit? This is in your goals. You would actually set up goals in Google Analytics. And here's an example of that source medium report, technically. Only we're just looking at the first part of it, which is identity, and the last part of it, which is the results section. And I'm looking here at something called the Academy sales goal. So this is really just not actual units sold. For us, this is the sales page views. So how many people saw the sales page? So this is aware. How many people were aware of our product at all? So not how many people bought, but how many people were aware that the Academy was even a product. That's sales page goal. Then we actually set up a completion goal. So this was the purchase of the goal. How many people actually purchased? And then we actually set up a engagement goal. That is how many people actually saw the cart. That's how we defined it in this case, is how many people actually saw the cart. And so in this process, we can see by traffic source, which traffic sources are really good at making people aware of our products, which traffic sources, I should say, are really good at closing the deal, that is completing the actual thing we want them to complete, in this case, purchasing the Measurement Marketing Academy, and which traffic sources are really good at engaging people along the way. And you will find that sometimes the traffic source that causes a lot of awareness is not the traffic source that is really good at closing the deal. And so that's how you can start optimizing your traffic sources, because you're going to start to see a story. How do you read these reports? Truth is in the trend, power is in the pattern. So I'm actually going to go through and I want to show this to you. So if you go through these 3 things, I want you to look at Seriously Simple Marketing Referral here. In this case, it made people aware. So 39 people were aware of the sales page. So it's pretty decent conversion rate in terms of making people aware that we even had a product called the Measurement Marketing Academy. Then we moved it into the purchase goal. Look what happens. 0. So you go, wow, okay, 39 people, I guess nobody was really interested in it. That's okay, that happens, right? Some traffic sources are great at awareness, but they're not really great at closing the deal because people don't engage along the way. But if you take it into the engagement step, which is why we measure this, right? The engagement steps here, you see 14, that's like half the people almost. So 39 people started, 14, a little less than half, actually engaged and saw the cart. And then none of those 14 people actually bought. Like, that's squirrely to me. That doesn't make sense. That's a weird pattern. And that's where the truth is in the trend, the power is in the pattern. That's power right there for me to know that, because that, along with the other things that we learned about this particular traffic source being serious and simple marketing, we learned that they are coming into the site really quickly. They're going through a bunch of pages really fast, probably too fast to build any sort of value. And so, of course, they're not buying, because they're seeing these pages way too quickly. They're not building value. And so when they go to actually get asked to buy something, they're not going to, because it's just too much. It's too quick. So we've got to slow them down. And that's why that just sort of helps. This one report, Source Media Report, helps us to understand that. If you look at this Google organic traffic here, you'll see that 4 people were at the cart. And how many people purchased? 2. So half the people that were coming from Google Organic that end up seeing the actual cart page end up purchasing. Like, that's pretty good. So I'm happy with Google Organic, right? That might be something that we start building out just from a content marketing standpoint. So these are the things that you can find from your Source Media Report when you know, again, start to finish. So again, this is the same Source Media Report, and you're seeing the identity, the quantity, the actions, the results. You have an idea now of hopefully how to read this report a little bit, but really the start to finish is doing this. It's connecting the identity to the results. So you then see the different traffic sources and what the results of that traffic source are. Using your ACE goals is the best model to actually use, in my opinion, because you start to see the different stages of not just what your end result is in terms of sales, but how you're getting there. So how many people are aware that you even had that product? How many people actually engaged? Maybe like an add to cart would be a good engagement goal. And then how many people actually completed the process? Or maybe just doing checkout would be a great goal. Started the checkout was your engagement goal. And then completed the checkout would be your completion goal in that example. So this is how you can start really understanding traffic sources, and all of a sudden the story becomes a little bit easier to read back here. All right, now once you know that, you can scale what's working and you fix what isn't. So in our case, we might scale something like Google Organic, but we're going to fix that serious and simple marketing traffic because it just isn't performing properly. They're coming in too fast. Too many of them are seeing the cart page and they're just not ready to buy. So we need to build value, slow them down a little bit, maybe adjust our messaging for that particular traffic source. All right, now hopefully as we wrap things up, you've got at least one new thing, and I know we covered a lot, so we will review. We talked about the tour. If you're just starting out in Google Analytics, don't worry about UTMs. Don't worry about ACE goals. Just get started understanding the structure of it and knowing, how to change your date ranges and look how to look at the reports. Maybe that truth is in the trend, the power is in the pattern, that sort of thing. If you are sort of comfortable with Google Analytics, then jump into the super report and focus on that Source Media Report because it is the most important thing. It is also where you practice learning to read. And again, how do you read these reports? Truth is in the trend, power is in the pattern. All you're looking for is a story. And the only way to see that story is to not focus on the numbers, but you focus on the trends and the patterns. So remember, truth is in the trend, the power is in the pattern. And then once you have that, assuming you set up your UTMs, if you aren't doing that now, then you move into setting up your UTMs, and then you move into setting up your ACE goals, and you'll be able to get a better story, a more useful truth from start to finish. So you see what traffic sources are actually causing what results. So here are your next steps. Again, if you're just starting out, maybe it's, I need to start using this thing. Like, I didn't realize I could do all this. Seems pretty cool. It is a skill and you need to practice it, and it's uncomfortable in the beginning. And it's like riding a bike. You can't watch me do it and then get better at it. You actually have to do it yourself and fall off a couple of times, to be honest. But it pretty quickly, following this sort of training method, you'll get a lot further than you think. So maybe it's just getting started. Maybe it's practicing reading, using that truth is in the trend, power in the pattern. That's a super useful way of getting to something that you can actually take some action on. Maybe if you're not using UTMs, you need to tag your traffic using UTMs. If you are using UTMs, you might have realized, there's some better ways that I can improve the ways that I actually use UTMs to tag my traffic. And then maybe it's just ACE goals. Maybe I'm tagging my traffic great, but I didn't even think about tying in, instead of I'm always focusing on the sale, but maybe I should focus on awareness and engagement. And so I can see not just what my end result is, those completion steps, but I can actually see how I'm getting there, and so I can see where the drop off is, because sometimes that can give you a clue as to what actions you should take next. Now, I mentioned the free resources. Traffic Tracking Toolkit is the one you want if you are trying to set up UTMs and learn all about that. You can find that at measurementmarketing.io/smart traffic live. Again, if you go to that page, measurementmarketing.io/smart traffic live, you'll also see UTMs. So you'll see how I'm actually tagging the traffic as well. You will also notice on that page that there is an ACE goal. So you can click there and you can get that as well. So in fact, anything on this page you can get. But the two things we talked about today's were the Traffic Tracking Toolkit with that UTM builder. There's a whole video series that goes deep dive into UTMs. It also comes with an ebook. So there's a lot more to it if you want to learn UTMs. Again, Traffic Tracking Toolkit or the ACE goals. So if you're just like, okay, I want to focus more on these, it gets a little more deep dive on there. Both of them are free. Yours to take are compliments. Okay, so they asked us to give some predictions. When I was talking to Molly, she's like, okay, can you give me some predictions on what the future holds? So I wanted to give you some predictions of what I think are coming up for 2020. Two things. One, I know we just talked about Google Analytics, but guess what? There's like a new one coming out. It's kind of being, termed Google Analytics 2.0. What it really is Web plus app. Now, I'm not going to go into huge detail about this because I don't think it's something that everybody needs to do today. It just isn't. But I wanted to show it to you just so you were familiar with it if anybody ever mentions it. So I'm going to go into ours so you can see here. So what this is, and I'm just going to show you the starting point of this. That's really it. If you come in here, you go to admin, you go to your property settings, and you go to create a property. You will see there's web, there's apps, there's this new one. Web, or apps plus web, they call it, right? So web plus apps, apps plus web. This is basically Google's attempt to sort of rebuild Google Analytics in the way that the internet is now with different devices. So in this stage right now is a completely different setup. It is completely different reports. It looks completely different in the interface. It is essentially Google Analytics 2.0. So it's a brand new thing that's coming out. At this point, it's a little more limited. You can't get as many answers from it as you can from what you currently have set up in your analytics. So do not worry about using it yet. This is why I said it's prediction for 2020. I think more people will start using it. It will definitely get more useful. This is just coming out. You can see it's in beta right now. So you probably have this back there as well. But know that this is a thing, and this is something you'll want to pay attention to. Again, probably not have to take any massive actions today, but over the course of 2020, you may want to start getting more into this. So just know that that is here. The other thing that I wanted to point out is that I think a lot more marketers are going to start marketing forward. Now, what do I mean by that? That is literally they will start, instead of looking back, everybody looks back in their data and they say, well, what just happened? And now what do we do? And it's kind of like looking in your rearview mirror trying to drive a car. You want to go forward, but if you keep looking in your rearview mirror, it's hard to get ahead when you're always looking back. So instead, you start marketing forward. Now, how do you do that? You forecast your results. So instead of saying, okay, well, let's go look at what happened at $10,000 you spent on Facebook yesterday, you say, here's what should happen with the $10,000 that I'm going to spend tomorrow. And then you measure against your forecasts. So you're marketing forward. And you don't just measure for the results. You don't just think, oh, I should have 100 sales coming in from that. You think, well, I should have 10,000 page views from that. And of those 10,000 page views, 30% are going to opt in. And of those people that opt in, 15 of them are going to buy this particular product. And you kind of measure out all the different, not just results that you expect, but how you actually expect those results to occur. And when you're measuring for all of that, you're actually marketing forward. You can actually measure your results so that you can see exactly what's working and what's not. So I think marketing forward will be a bigger and bigger thing in 2020 because marketers will learn measurement and really start to figure out how to apply measurement to their own measurement marketing. So with that, again, these are the free resources, measurementmarketing.io/smart traffic live. If you want more from us, this is our site. So measurementmarketing.io. You can find my email, mercer@measurementmarketing.io. If you have any specific questions, I'm happy to help you out. You can find us all over the socials at Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And of course, I just wanted to thank you for your time. I know this is not the easiest thing to get through. It's not the sexiest thing to talk about, but it's so, so vitally important. You have to know how you're actually getting the results that you're getting. Measurement is the way to do that. And it's not really that hard. It is a unique skill, but it is a skill that can be taught and practiced and learned and improved upon. So whatever you are in your skill level today, you can be better tomorrow with just the tiniest bit of practice. And hopefully we are able to help you along with that that journey today. So again, there's my email, mercer@measurementmarketing.io. And of course, the traffic tracking toolkit, the ACE goals, and everything else over at measurementmarketing.io/smart traffic live. Thanks again for your time. I love you guys being here, and enjoy the rest of Smart Traffic Live. Take care.